the only thing certain is uncertainty. That is the worst thing for a business owner. It makes long-term planning very, very, very difficult. Should you hire? Should you invest? Should you do this? Should you buy your inventory in advance because it's going to cost more later? I mean, there's so many things you have to think about that we don't technically have the answer to. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 9% Show. I'm your host, Steven Burton, and here at the 9%, y'all know I keep everything 100. If I haven't done it, not doing it, or not about to do it, it will not come out my mouth. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. And like we always do here at the 9%, we take a toast to the 9%ers out there and those that would like to get into the 9% club. Toast to you guys. Toast to you guys. All right. Well, we are talking about tariffs today, okay? It's all in the news, this big old word of tariffs. So we talk about the truth. This is the truth about tariffs from a business owner, okay? Directly from a business owner. This ain't what you're getting on some news clips or whatever or online, what's going on. I can speak to it from a business owner perspective, okay? So we're going to go over tariffs. We're going to talk about what it is, what it ain't. We just go get straight to the facts like we always do here at the 9% Show. We go straight from the politics of it. You know what I'm saying? There's plenty other YouTube clips and things you can go to your heart's desire to find some political talk, but we go just strictly keep it facts, strictly keep it business, and that's what we're talking about. Because these tariffs that are some getting implemented, some getting threatened and taken back, and threatened again and taken back, you just don't know where it's at. So as of this recording, I believe the only tariff that has taken effect is the one on China, and I believe it's a 10% overall tariff on China. And they're doing some retaliation tariffs, but there's threats of tariffs to Canada, to Mexico, to Lord knows who else. So, how do you navigate this as a business owner? Okay, that's what we go talk about. And I'm gonna give some examples of what I had to deal with because I was actually, the first Trump presidential term, he had some tariffs involved and things like that. So, and honestly, even just dealing with price increases with from COVID and supply chain interruptions, that was difficult as well. So I'm gonna talk about a little my experience with it, or what I'm currently seeing and currently going through in this moment. So let's first talk about what exactly is a tariff. Okay, so a tariff is a tax imposed on imported goods. And I know there's some debate if it's a tax, and I will say it's a tax on imported goods. But the biggest word of this tax is who exactly pays for it. So if I'm importing something, or even my suppliers, if they're importing something, the nation that sends the product does not pay the tax. So if China sends some goods over here, they are not paying the tax. It's the person that's importing it pays this tax. So if I'm receiving it, I need to pay X amount of dollars to this tax to get my goods. Okay. So on top of whatever I'm paying China, whatever my invoice is, I'm putting that 10% on top of that. Sometimes you might hear numbers and you say 10%. Is it really that much? I mean, but yeah, it adds up, especially when you're talking from a micro level. It might not seem like, but if you're really going out from maximum, just if you're talking about billions in dollars, yeah, 10% is a lot of money. So as far as who pays for it, the importer pays for the tariff, okay, and then from that point, rather if I'm importing something directly and going right directly to consumer at that point, obviously I'm holding the cost. But in my industry, or at least in my business, I buy wholesale a lot. So I have suppliers that I deal with that they import things in, and then they mark up the price and sell it to me, and then I retail sell it to my customers. So obviously, what happens? So the importer, my supplier, has to pay this tax. They have two options. Either they eat the cost or they pass it on to me. Most times they will pass it on to me. And then once it's passed on to me, I then have two options. I could then eat the cost, or I can pass it on to my customers. And then ultimately, that's generally what happens. And then, so who is technically paying for that? The consumer. Yes, the consumer is paying for it. Do they work? Do they not work? It's debatable. I think the overall idea, at least, President Trump's first term, it was more of an economic strategy, like trade imbalances, trying to get the trade balance, like pretty much with trade balance saying, hey, I send, we send $1 billion worth of corn. We buy $1 billion worth of corn from you guys, and you guys aren't buying $1 billion worth of wheat from us, or whatever the case may be. Like, they want a balanced trade thing. But sometimes you hear that and it's not really apples to apples there, because sometimes we're importing things that we then make and create that goes into what we do, that we export for something, or we sell it for something totally different. Like, it's not necessarily it's not apples to apples, oranges to oranges like that. Like, so sometimes imbalances doesn't really show the whole story. Or you might kind of want, you might want to promote, to buy in America, because that's really what tariffs do as well. Because, like, if I'm importing something, let's just say it's a suit, and there's this tariff levied on it, where it no longer makes sense for me to get it from China, because the price I got to pay to get it in, plus I got to pay this tariff, plus the shipping, whatever the case may be. I can just get it local. I can get it in America. At this point, it makes sense for me to, because, let's say I was paying $50 for this thing. Now I got to pay $70 after this tariff, but I can get it in America for $70. Then it's like, why am I going to go through this hassle when I can get from $70 here and then less shipping costs and all that type of stuff? So that's kind of the idea too. But the fact of the matter is, American manufacturer has been gone, and we still can't really compete with, as far as our living wages we try to provide. And, we got, laws about, how workers and, how you get treated, all this type of stuff that that maybe other countries don't have those type of restrictions. So it's a really tough thing as far as, like, what it would ultimately result of. Some of the reasons for the tariffs nowadays are more political reasons. Like, it's like, it's a leverage tool to whether it's immigration or drugs influence, like whatever the case may be. It's still not really an economic reason. So do they work? Do they not? I mean, that's up for debate. We're not really going to dive too deep in that, but that's just the overall of, like, understanding where we're at and what people are talking about when they're talking about these things. So, again, the who pays for part is the consumers. Okay. You guys are paying for it. It is going to raise inflation. Things are going to get more expensive, because businesses are not in the business of making less money. Okay, we're in the business of making as much profit as we can. At least that's the business I'm in. Okay, so I'm going to pass over these costs, and I'm going to talk a little more about what I've done, or what's happened to me, or how I'm thinking about the situation. But the next thing I kind of want to touch on in these times of today is, the only thing certain is uncertainty. That is the worst thing for a business owner. It makes long-term planning very, very, very difficult. Should you hire? Should you invest? Should you do this? Should you buy your inventory in advance because it's going to cost more later? I mean, there's so many things you have to think about that we don't technically have the answer to. And that's why it really becomes really hard as a business owner when you're just like, oh, there's a threat made. Oh no, they take back the threat. Oh no, there's a threat again. Oh, they take back the threat. Oh no, they said they're going to do it. 2 days later, they take it back. So it's like, it's very hard to be in uncertain times. And it's like, that's the worst position as a business owner to be in. I'm hoping. And then, like, even if when stuff a tariff gets laid, you don't know what the retaliative, tariff is. And then that might not affect you as an importer, or me as a business owner, retaliation, because, I'm not sending goods overseas, but the overall economy, this stuff affects the overall economy. If it does well, obviously we are all doing well, but if it goes bad, it affects a lot of things. I mean, for example, like, I think the last administrator, that Trump had, his first presidency, he had a tariff on steel. And so granted, the steel workers had a little boom. They were good. But that's just one industry. But the industry that used steel and buys it and now is forced to buy it American and pay more for it, the auto workers, and this, anybody that's got to buy less of it because it's more expensive, then they lost jobs in this industry. So it's like you might help an industry, this one struggles. It's just all over the place. But the fact of the matter is, like, we need certainty, okay? As business owners, if anybody is here listening that is an elective official, okay, we need certainty. We can't be going off a whim every single day. Okay, we got to control what we can control, but like with times like this, it makes it very difficult to project, to know where you need to go, makes planning difficult, all that type of stuff. Okay. Next, I want to talk about my experiences. Okay, with tariffs, price increases, things like that. Again, for me, I'm going to pass over the costs. Okay, I'm going to put it to my customers. I would say the way of thinking about that, and it kind of still depends. I mean, like, let's say it just raised your cost $3. Am I going to raise my prices by $3? Maybe not, but it's not always, I put it like this. When you're buying in bulk, stuff gets more expensive. And it just depends. I mean, like I said, it really depends on what the product is, what it is. If it's a $10, $10 more cost, it depends on your margins, how much room you have to withstand that, how much profit you're making, what's your profit margins. That's what it really affects, is your profit margins, because your cost of goods sold goes up, because it costs you more for a product. So I have had price increases on me, and usually my vendors they've tried to hold it as long as they could. But as it gets more expensive, a lot of times they might waiting till they're selling off the products they have currently already here. And then they're kind of holding off that price increase. And then when they got to import new things, then you start hitting that price increase. But for me, yes, I'm going to probably charge a little fee, charge a little more. Eventually it's just going to have to happen. I mean, I try to have pretty high margins as far as like a good solid margin for me right now. So like I said, if it's a $3, $2 increase, I'm probably not raising my prices to that degree, but if it gets anywhere from like, $10 and up, oh yes, I'm raising my price something. And that's just the reality of the situation. Certain industries, certain, businesses, your customer might not be willing to pay that price. It really comes down to the perceived value of what you have. It doesn't matter if your costs go up. If no longer, I think they just starting to charge a little extra at the Waffle House, 50 cents per egg right now. And it's like, if that little $3.99, $4.99 special deal was dear to your heart, or, we don't got no Waffle Houses out here in LA, but, whatever the little special deal they got, if that special deal is now like $8.99, it's like, it's not worth it to me, then I'm not going to buy it. But so as a business owner, you need to know that. You need to know, do I have the wiggle room to raise the price? And if you don't, you just need to eat that cost. I mean, it just is what it is. So it really depends. But for me, I would say the most wildest thing, I would say with Trump's first tariffs, it wasn't like that super big impactful, but as far as like price increases going crazy, where I had to raise prices, was when like COVID and the supply chain issues, and like it literally what it was like to get a, what they call them things. Might have to edit this part. What is the boat? The crates, the containers. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So when the supply chain issue happened and there was containers that had to come over, these containers, there's usually, I forgot what it was at these times, but let's just say it's like 1,500 normally to transport some stuff over. It literally jumped to like 10,000. And I'm not even exaggerating, like that drastic of a jump. So when I say prices was going up left and right, hello, inflation. So when inflation started happening, it wasn't no surprise to me. It wasn't because of, certain people got into office or some people didn't get into office. It was just simple economics. Like, the supply chain issues was causing all type of havoc. Okay. And all you could do is raise prices. Were some people being greedy during the times and raising prices anyway? I'm sure there are little big companies. But for small business like us and, where we're really on the margins, we just got to do what we got to do. But that was a time where I definitely had to raise prices and things like that. But as far as But with the numbers I'm hearing now, as far as certain things, it's like when you're hearing like 20%, 25%, 30%, those are when it gets scary. Okay. This 10% one, I think from a whole, whole overall economy level, that's a lot of money. But it depends on your industry, depends what you're doing. It depends how heavily you are importing things in or not. Just depends. So you might be asking yourself, well, how can we prepare as business owners for these type of times? Again, it's kind of tough because there's a lot of uncertainty out there. But what we can do, and what I've done, even before Trump got into office, once the election happened, I knew that was happening. I stay informed. I stay informed about tariff policies. Again, it's kind of hard because one day it's this, the next day is that, this day is this, and it's just you don't really know. But you have to stay in the loop to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on with your industry, know what's going on with your suppliers. Make sure you have good relationships with your suppliers. Build relationships with multiple suppliers. You might have some suppliers that are in different countries. You might have some in China, some in India, some wherever. Go to trade shows, start building those relationships. Definitely could do that. Maybe different ways, instead of thinking, if you think you can't, instead of just a straight price increase, maybe think about, bundling your products or tiered level, like good, better, best model. Things, whatever you can do to, preserve that value, that perception of the value. There's, tricks and things you can do. If it's like add-ons, maybe you hide that cost in the add-on. Maybe the base price can still stay the same, but you're buying a suit from me, add on this tie, but the tie is like $3 more, So whatever you can do to still preserve the value of your product or service, that's how you want to kind of think about this stuff and things you want to think about, for your industry. But again, you can only start doing that stuff if you stay informed with what's going on. And again, it's very hard to do that right now. But man, so this was like a short and sweet video. I just really wanted to dive deep into tariffs real quick and really speak from a business owner standpoint, and just know it's real out there. Because just today, I already got an email talking about what they think is going to be happening with some price increases. So it's one thing when you see things in the news and you see things from afar and you're like, okay, yeah, I want that. Yeah, make it in America. Yeah. But when that stuff hits your door and it's more expensive, keep that same energy. Okay? Keep that same energy. All right, y'all. If y'all like this video, please comment below, like it. Hey, if you think did I hit it on point with tariffs? Do you have a different viewpoint on it? Do you think it'll be successful? Please, hey, put it in the comments. Let me know how you're handling tariffs if you're a business owner out there. Okay? Until next time, I will catch you on a 9% show. Peace.